everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening. And as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Welcome to Total Truth Show episode 96, the truth about creativity and neurodiversity. My name is Aldwyn Altuney, and I am coming to you today with my co-host all the way from San Diego, Ken Kleinberg. How are you going?
Doing great. How are you today?
Excellent, thank you. And we have a very special guest from a different part of the world, from Scotland in the UK. And a little bit about our beautiful guest here. This is going to be a hot show, by the way, particularly if you're neurodiverse. You're going to love it. Now, Mandy is the creative genius consultant. She's an artist and author and the owner of a creative retreat in Scotland. She helps creative women launch, grow, and scale their businesses and make more money. She's on a mission to stomp all over the myth of the starving artists and speak out about the power of the creative mind. Welcome, Mandy.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Great to have you here. And I'm going to love listening to your accents. And of course, you're the ones with the accents, not me. Okay. So for those who love the different versions of the English accent, you're going to love this show today as a great bonus. Now, Mandy, can you share a bit of your background and why this topic is so important to you, the truth about creativity and neurodiversity?
Yeah, happy to share lots, and it's such a big story I've got to share, so I'll just take snippets from it. So I was a traditional creative, went to university to do a degree in art and design, and then couldn't find a job in art and design when I'd finished my degree. So I ended up in a proper job. Like all creatives do, we get the proper job so we can pay the bills, and you end up on the hamster wheel of life. And it was very much later on in my 50s that I decided to go back to creativity, thanks to a loving push from my late husband. And I'd figured out life in that time. But all the time there was a void inside me, the void that exists when you are not following your true passion and your true area of genius. So I launched my creative business in 2019, and I have been helping creative women ever since. And I am helping versions of myself because so many women end up on that same hamster wheel of life.
Amazing. Yes, I'm sure many people can relate to that. And welcome to our live viewers we have on Instagram. Anna Osherov, good to see you. Doc George Taylor is with us. And those on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're joining us from right now. In fact, let us know, where are you joining us from? And how does this topic relate to you? Are you creative? Are you neurodiverse? Or are you both? And we were chatting about this before we went live today. The link between creativity and neurodiversity is so interesting. Can you share about that, please, Mandy?
Yeah, it's been a huge learning for me. I am autistic and artistic. We had that little mix up earlier, autistic and artistic. I didn't know I was autistic. I always felt like the weirdo in the room. I always felt different as a creative. I thought differently. I behaved differently. But I had 2 children. Both of them are autistic, both on the spectrum, both neurodiverse. My daughter is ADHD and autistic. My son is autistic. They are both creative, and creativity helped them make sense of the world. And I started to connect the dots and see autism in myself through my children. And then I started working with creative women. And guess what? The same things were coming up. And I started studying these traits that were coming up again and again and again. This is where I made the connection. We are good at connecting the dots. And I connected the dots and said, there's a huge connection between creativity and neurodiversity. It's like that.
What are some, I got a question. What are some of the things that you discovered about yourself that pointed to you being autistic? And here's why I asked that question. Because there's a lot of autistic people that I have met that have speech problems. There's a lot of them that have speech problems. You are very fluent in the way you speak. You don't seem like there's any autism about you. I mean, on the surface, that's what it looks like to me. So when I first met you, Mandy, and you told me you were autistic, that was kind of like a, huh? Because I'm like, you don't sound autistic, you don't act autistic, and you don't look autistic. So what are some of the things, well, look, I don't think that there's a look for autistic, but you get what I'm saying. What are some of the things that pointed you to being autistic? Because I think, for me at least, my view of what looks autistic is different because I've never met someone like you that's I don't know. So am I making sense? So anyhow, what are some of the things that pointed you towards that?
Okay, so first of all, autism, huge spectrum, and no 2 people with ADHD or autism or what used to be Asperger's or dyspraxia are the same. It's a massive spectrum. And it's like any other disability. Some people with autism are nonverbal, can't communicate, overstimulated, their sensory overload is high. Some people with autism are hyper-focused and really super intelligent. Dyslexia is on the spectrum. Dyslexic people are some of the most intelligent people in the world, and they are on the autism spectrum as well. It's all elements of, and you can have different traits. So for me, I'm super intelligent and get things really quickly, and I take action really quickly, but I get bored really quickly. I've been married 4 times. If you're going to look at the traits of autism, I've been married 4 times, 3 idiots and 1 good one. So I react quickly to things and take risks. I'm a risk taker, which can go either way. These are some of the things that you might not see visibly, but that are definitely there. I was really successful in my career in retail. As a store manager and as a divisional executive, because I took the risks that everybody else was scared to take. There's almost no filter with the risk taking, which can end you up and I've also been bankrupt. So if you look at the history over the last 50 years, there's bankruptcy, 4 marriages, super big, high performing career in retail, starting my own business. I've now been in my own business 12 years and had 5 different businesses before I landed on the one that was in my area of genius. And even now, I've got to make sure that I'm not getting bored. I've got to have enough projects on the go so that I don't get bored. You know, I'll be like, oh, I think I'll write a book this year. I know, well, that's this year's project. I'll write a book. I want an Amazon #1 bestseller. So I'll go all out and I'll land an Amazon #1 bestseller. So these are all, they're subtle traits, but they're not actually very subtle. If you look at my life, there's this long history of risk-taking, boredom. I've moved house probably 20 times. Most people are still living in the same house they were born in. I've been all over the UK, all over, you know, I just like, right, I've been there, done that, stayed there for 3 years, I'm moving now. And those are autistic traits.
See, that's fascinating, Mandy, because a lot of those traits I would see as ADHD. So can you share a bit about what is the main difference between autistic and ADHD?
I think because my son's autistic, my daughter is ADHD and autistic, and they're very different, very different. My son is very much black and white thinking, logical. He's creative, but it's either right or wrong, black or white. And he's very calm. He does get sensory overload. My daughter's brain goes at 100 miles an hour. She goes into panic mode over things. She'll hyperventilate. She can't cope with really, really small things. There's a huge difference between them. But there's traits of autism and ADHD in both of them and in me. So it's very difficult to say this is autism, this is ADHD, because it's a spectrum.
Well, let's just say we're all genius. That's the main thing. So we're all genius, whatever we choose to call ourselves or whatever we get diagnosed as, or, and it's interesting, a lot of late term sort of ADHD, I only found out a few years ago that I was ADHD, on the prompting of an ex-boyfriend. That's probably why he's an ex-boyfriend, but that's partly why he's an ex-boyfriend. You've got issues. Well, as it turns out, these issues, some people see as issues, can actually be superpowers, right? So ADHD generally, they say, can have trouble focusing, which is true. However, we can also be hyper focused. So it's about channeling the genius, isn't it? So that we have the best results in life. And I know I can be a bit scattered. I know I've had issues with my time management. And thank you for all those who were waiting from our scheduled start of the show. It's my fault that we're late today, coming back from hospital, etc. So and I'm not going to beat myself up about it. It's just sometimes stuff happens, and we work around it. However, this seems to be like an ongoing thing for me, is working on being organized, working on allowing enough time for things. I find time just goes like that for me. I find I'm in such a zone and in such a flow with my life that, I wake up and before I know it, it's time to go to bed. It's like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's like I go into this vortex, so I don't know if that's like a common trait too of ADHD or autism, or, whether everyone kind of feels that nowadays. What are your thoughts on that?
Most definitely, these are all traits. And I think the big thing for me is that lots of women are being diagnosed late. And it's because we've been misdiagnosed through historically as anxiety and depression. We've been fobbed off by our doctors with anxiety and depression. I mean, if you think back in history, women were put in psychiatric units as hysterical. We were burned as witches at the stake because we were a bit weird, or we were working with nature and the elements. So women have always been, and it's probably, I would say, these have been creative and neurodiverse women along the way. We've been misdiagnosed. And do you know why we've been misdiagnosed? Because the diagnosis criteria for autism and ADHD is designed for boys. It's not designed for girls. It was designed for boys. So when we are being assessed, as to, my daughter was diagnosed age 24 with autism. She was referred as a child. My son was diagnosed age 6 with autism, but they fobbed my daughter off with post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression for years. And she kept going back and saying, it's more than this. I'm just not fitting in at school. I'm not coping with the way that I'm being taught. I'm not. And she was overlooked so much. It took a lot of going back to get that diagnosis for her. So if you take the two of them, Dan diagnosed at 6, Becca diagnosed at 24, even though I knew they were both autistic. So women have had a bit of a rough deal, and that's why there's a lot of older women now being diagnosed with ADHD and autism. We've been misdiagnosed, misunderstood, and we haven't therefore understood ourselves very well.
How fascinating. And I know I've had depression for years. I know I've been anxious for years. And, I just thought, I've had depression over the years, However, most likely there was ADHD there from a very young age. And, I became a super high performer with table tennis, represented Australia for 6 years. I've done some pretty extreme things. I've taken massive risks. I've definitely had the bright, shiny object syndrome. There's lots of things I could relate to as you were sharing that, I haven't been married 4 times. I've actually, single. However, I've lived in the same house for 23 years and I've traveled 3-4 months of the year. So I'm constantly traveling and there's this constant kind of restlessness, that I want to go and explore the world. I want to do all these amazing things. And, this like lust for life that I see with people who are neurodivergent often. They have this, absolute genius. And most of my friends are neurodivergent. Most of them are entrepreneurs. And I see Alice has just joined us on Instagram. Hey, Alison, good to see you. And I know, she's ADHD as well, an amazing lady, a fellow speaker as well. And, get a whole lot of neurodivergence in the room and it's hard to get anyone to shut up sometimes. We all love to speak a lot. Especially a room of speakers, it's like the art of listening. Linda Morrison's one of my media clients and she has a show called the Art of Listening, and so interesting because people often just want to talk over each other. So what are some ways we can channel this amazing genius that we have as a neurodivergent creative?
I think the big thing is really truly understanding yourself. And what are the traits that I have that I need to work on to help me manage this amazing condition? I love neurodiverse people. They are so unique and so interesting and not at all dull, and normally, entrepreneurs and not satisfied with the dull and mundane in life. So what amazing people to be around. So learn to channel, learn to manage the things that you struggle with. So you mentioned things like, shiny object syndrome. If you are easily distracted, you need to have a strategy to deal with that distraction. Otherwise, you will be sitting down at your desk to do something. And by the end of the day, you'll have done 6 different things and not the thing you set out to do. So you need a strategy. You need a strategy for how am I going to park those ideas and then be able to assess those ideas to see if they're viable ideas and not just a creative thought that's going on in your head. Because I think anybody who's ADHD will get that completely. You sit down to do something and at the end of the day, it's still going to be there and the 6 other things got done.
Yes, and Alison's actually saying here on Instagram, she's saying, combine a PA with a neurodivergent, life would be amazing. Personal assistant, I presume you're talking about Alison. She says, love it. And she says daily, she gets distracted daily. And so let's talk about that in itself. That one thing about procrastination, about getting sidetracked, doing a million things at once. Like I'll often find if I'm going from the bathroom to the kitchen, for example, I go, I'll take this to the kitchen. And while I'm at the kitchen, I'll just do the dishes quickly. And then while I do that, I'll just make a coffee and then I'll go do this. And then, okay, and then I'll get this and I'll put some music on and then, it just can be like just, but however there's flow with the whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, while I'm here, I'll do this. And while I'm here, so very easily distracted. So what are some ways to manage that?
Well, I mean, I think, let's start with the reason that happens is because your mind literally never slows down. It's going at 100 miles an hour all the time. The thoughts are coming in all the time. The ideas are coming in all the time. You'll see a color and you'll think, pink, I could do something in that color. It just is really, and that's the reason that you get distracted. So I think what I always say is, what happens that the neurotypical people will say to you, you need to get organized and you need to plan better. And here's how you plan. Let's look at smart goal setting and let's look at all these things. And this, you're already bored at this point as an ADHD. You're bored. You're not interested. You're like, oh yeah, smart goal setting and having no, I say, find your way. Do you know how I plan? I get a great big 4-foot piece of lining paper and a load of Sharpies and I mind map in giant proportions. And I look at a big picture and say, what do I want things to look like this year? And I plan that on a big giant mind map that normally sits behind my desk. And I look at it every morning and I extract from that, okay, what am I going to do in quarter one, and what am I going to do in the month, and what am I going to do in the week? And then I get my colored highlighters out and I say, what are the biggest things that are going to make the biggest impact in my business? They go in my diary as a rock. They're rocks. I'm not moving them. They're boulders. They're not moving. Yeah. Then I'll add the pebbles, things that can be moved. Yeah. Things that can be moved a couple of days and not have an impact. And then I'll add sand. Sand can be brushed over a few days and not have an impact on my business. So my planning is colorful, interesting, creative, in giant format, and then highlighted in my diary that looks pretty, because that's how I plan. And what I say is, what works for you? You don't have to do smart goal setting. What works for you?
Now, see, that's interesting. That's interesting because, I mean, I have the most wonderful coach that I can possibly have. My coach, Francine, she is amazing. And I can never exhaust saying amazing things about her. She had me do like visualization for the dream in my business. Where do I want to take my business? And she's constantly casting out these visions towards me. Like, as she sees me grow, she'll cast this vision and she'll be like, now this is what you need to start thinking about, and this is how you're going to start thinking over here, and this is okay. But I'm looking at this, and this dream, I'm looking at my wall over here, because it's pinned to my wall. Yeah. I look at that and I'm like, that's nice. And that would be nice. But trying to plan out how I'm going to get there, I will often sit there and I will often draw blanks. But the dream's nice, right. And so how does a person like me figure out how I can actually plan this out and visually see it, because that's another thing that'll happen too. I'll have all these ideas in my head and I'll sit down and I'll try to execute. And then it's almost like sometimes it's like writer's block. Yeah. And I really have to work hard and work hard and work hard to try to burst out of that, if you will, to like break through that. Then I finally find the flow. But it's like a lot of times it just feels like so much time is wasted. And I definitely identify with sitting down at my desk and going to work on something. And then it's like, oh yeah, this over here. Oh, and I forgot to do this Facebook post. Oh, and I forgot this. And then I might spend an hour on the project that I actually wanted to sit down and do, but I didn't spend the amount of time that I wanted to spend on it. And so then what that ends up perpetuating is guilt. Because then in the back of my head, I'm like, see, you only spent an hour on that. That's not enough. And I'll, kind of like beat myself up over that. In the beginning, when I was first working with my coach, Francine, she said to me multiple times, she's like, you are extremely hard on yourself. And it's true. I am. Yeah. I'm very, very hard on myself. So what are some tips? What are some things you can speak into, like someone like me? It's just like, because I would love to sit down and like think that clear and really be laser focused. But I feel like sometimes that's still a big struggle for me. And I've learned just to kind of dismiss it and just continue and not worry about it. But hearing what Aldwyn has shared, hearing what you shared so far here today, I'm going, okay, maybe there's something more. Maybe there's a key that I need to unlock this, so that's kind of my question. What are some things you can give? How do I even find my methods?
Yeah, like what's the magic key? I want to know too, because I can relate. I can relate. Can you unlock this little challenge for us, please?
I'd love to, and I think this is what takes time. And I think the reality of it is there's loads of courses or programs out there where it's 6 weeks or it's 10 weeks, and sustainable change takes time and repetition. And repetition serves you if you are neurodiverse. Yeah, that is, I repeat that all the time through my program, Repetition Serves You. I will never apologize for saying the same thing again and again and again. And visualization works, but you have to have a strategy with your visual. And I use myself as an example there. So in 2019, when I bought my dream home for cash after being bankrupt 10 years earlier, I said, what's next? And I put a castle on my vision board. I want a castle in Scotland so I can run creative retreats. That was what was on my vision board. I then mind mapped it and I said, right, okay, let's work backwards from the castle. How much is a castle going to cost me? I know, Google. Went and signed up with Savills, who are the estate agents in Scotland that sell castles. So I went and viewed castles on Savills and looked at the one I wanted and found a castle in Brecon near Dundee, and it was £3 million. And I was like, right, okay, now I know how much a castle's going to cost, 3 million. And then I'm going to need enough money to run it for a year and enough money to staff it and enough money for running costs. So I probably need 6 million. So I started with a castle on my mind map and I put 6 million next to it. And then I said, let's reverse engineer this. How many courses will I need to sell to make that money? So how many women will I have to serve to make that 6 million? And how long will that take me? Let's break down all the products I've got at the prices that I've got and figure out how many and then how long.
If I could interrupt you for a second, I want you to continue your flow. So don't lose your thought.
Yeah.
But even just that right there, as you're starting to reverse engineer it, okay, so now you're getting an insider look on me, on the processes that happen with me. And I don't commonly share this with people, but just breaking it down to like how many clients you would need, how many programs you would need to sell, and that terrifies me. For some reason, that produces anxiety in me because I'm just like, oh, what kind of changes are going to need to happen that I'm not quite ready for? That's what's going through my head. Now, I know as an entrepreneur, I need to find a way to fix that way of thinking because that's not going to serve me. But that's the reality, and that's the unsaid things that I don't commonly share. So anyhow, continue. I wanted to give you my feedback on that as you're strategizing through that. So continue with your thought process.
And no, thank you for saying that, Ken, because this is what happens. And this is what I find with the women that I work with and with my kids is as soon as you actually see how much it costs and how much you've got to do, fear sets in and then you go, I can't possibly do that because comparisonitis sets in and you're like, I can't be that person that sells that many courses. Look at that person over there. I can't be them. I can't be that salesy, or I can't do that cheesy sales stuff and be a marketer. So what you do is you start to talk yourself out of it. And I get that. And I see that happening. So what I do is this is how I work with these women, is keeping them on track with that goal. So this is how I built my vision, is reverse engineered it and then said, right, okay, that's probably going to take me 10 years. I was realistic and said, that's going to take me 10 years to get that level of money to be able to do that. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to keep that vision in front of me and keep going for that, because actually something might happen that I can do it beforehand. So what I'm going to do is every single day, I'm going to ask myself this question: what are you doing today to get you nearer to your castle? So it became a thing. I got known as the castle lady on social media because I shared it, and I shared it on social media to hold myself accountable. So I was like, I'm going to buy a castle in Scotland. This is what I'm doing. This is the thing. People were sending me links for castles. They were like, I became known for it. So I held myself accountable by sharing it on social media. I asked the question every day. I posted that on my socials. And what happened was, along the way, the universe intervened, and it came in and it said, here's a miniature version of that very castle that you could afford to buy now and do it on a smaller scale. But because I had the visual and I'd done the work, I noticed it. And that's what happens with this neurodiverse and creative brain. You've put this vision in it. You've done the work. You've crunched the numbers. You've got a plan. You think it's going to take you 10 years. 2 years after creating that mind map, I bought this place in Scotland and renovated it. I call it my mini castle. It's not a castle, but it's an ex-bank, and it looks very much like the very castle I had on my vision board, but in smaller scale. So instead of having 15 rooms in a castle, I've got 3 rooms here, and I could afford to buy it for cash, and I renovated it, and I'm actually doing all the things that were in my head that I wanted to do in that castle. And it was doing the work that actually put the version I could afford now in front of me. So what I would say is, although the vision scares you, and this is how I work with the neurodiverse and the creative brain, the vision might scare you and the numbers might scare you. But if you don't do them, you're never going to get any version of it. So why not do the work, and why not ask yourself every morning? And what I say to my clients is, what's your castle? Because not everybody wants a castle. What is your castle? Because
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
I would say my castle would be this. One of the biggest desires that I have is to finally be able to get out of this apartment and to get a 3 to 4 bedroom house, which then would allow me to have my office separate from my bedroom. Right now, both are crammed into one small dinky little room. I make it work, and it is what it is, and I'm blessed to have what I do. But that is my dream. And then in addition to that house, I also, over the last month or so, like, there's been a few things that have happened, and some major blessings that have happened, but it also opened my mind to the reality of, okay, also with that house that I find, I also want enough space somewhere in that house to be able to set up the entire cardio routine that I love to do, and have the space to be able to do that, and have the space to be able to store the workout equipment that I would use to set up that space. So I don't have to rely on finding that unique gym that would cater to those needs, because it's very rare to find gyms that even think about the type of people like myself that do the kind of routines that I do. Just to give you a little peek into what that looks like. Why is he talking about a cardio routine? Because it's unique. Because my cardio routine, you'll never find me on a machine for my cardio. I've set up plyo boxes. I got Bosu balls. I'm hopping on things. I do a light version of parkour. It's a mixture of a bunch of different things. Very functional, very athletic. Oftentimes I get people that tell me that ask me, are you going to one of those shows like Ninja Warrior and stuff like that? So that kind of gives you an insight on what I mean by that. That's the vision I have. That's the kind of house I want, I desire. And then not too big of a backyard, something that's, closed in and private. And then the other recent one that's detailed that's coming to that, because I don't want it close to the freeway, because I don't want to hear the freeway at night. I want to hear critters and the creation that's around me. So that's my castle. That's my vision for that. That's what I want. I'm not looking for luxurious. I'm not looking for crazy expensive, whatever. I just want a 3 to 4 bedroom house, preferably with a master bedroom on the downstairs level where my mom can reside, because I caretake for my mom. And then having the upstairs level have all the other rooms. So that's kind of like my own domain up there, obviously. So that's the ideal. So that's my castle. That's what it looks like.
That's great, Ken. And what I suggest then is to do a vision board. I love vision boards. And as a creative, just about every year I'm creating a vision board. And similar to you, Mandy, I have actually mapped out in the 8 areas of life what are my big rock things for the year. And I have them in different colors. And this is where this year I've been getting really ultra organized with my calendar and highlighting in different colors all through my calendar things that are family time, things that are work time, things that are care, health care, self-care,
things that are speaking gigs, or I've got a category called Showtime, which is in pink. And so in my diary, I've got things like Total Truth Show or Media Queen TV, or, I've got my Mass Media Mastery program. I've got different things. I've got networking in green. I've got, different things in different colors in my calendar. And also on this, I've actually done A4 version, only because I've got limited space on my walls because I've got so much stuff up around the place. So I've done an A4 version, which works well for me. It's right behind my computer area on the Gold Coast, although right now I'm on the Sunshine Coast at my dad's place. But I love that visual aspect of having those big rock items, and then that's kind of like a great way to sort of, like, if you're going down a road and you go off course, as neurodivergent people can do, go off course like this, then you always come back to what's the main focus. And I often think about the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle. Okay, what's the 20% that I do now that's going to give me 80% result? And looking back at those big rock things. So, and I think also, not beating ourselves up when we do go off course, because I know I can be very hard on myself as well, Ken. I can really relate to what you're saying there, Ken, because, I don't want a castle. I love the idea of a castle, but, for me, I need to be near the beach, and I believe Scotland gets very cold. And so for me, I need to be somewhere where it's a lot warmer. That's my thing. And to be around nature and animals. And, my castle, I guess, is like an animal sanctuary. But really, I live in an animal sanctuary. Australia, this part of the world, Southeast Queensland, is absolutely glorious. Although we do have a cyclone coming in about 2 days' time, apparently, into the area. So let's see what it's going to be looking like on Friday. And on Thursday, apparently. So people are now, battening down the hatches and taking in things that could be flying away. So we haven't had anything like this in this area for a long time. So let's see what happens there. However, life will throw curveballs. Life will throw cyclones at you. It will throw stuff, like my mum being in hospital for 10 weeks. This is something, the last 24 hours I've been in my mum's hospital room caring for mum. I've been, this is where I was this morning. I came back from the hospital back to Bribie Island, and, we deal with what we need to deal with. And I was, doing work and setting up the Total Truth Show last night and doing my Good News Challenge. And, thankfully I've created a life for myself as an entrepreneur where I can work from anywhere, so that when life does throw curveballs, I can, suddenly base myself now at Bribie Island. I go back to the Gold Coast, 1 day a week or 2 days a week. However, I've got things in place. I've got a caretaker back on the Gold Coast. I've got, things I've put into place to manage the curveballs that happen. However, it's the curveballs in our mind, really, that it's great to have that awareness. And for me, a great thing for me has been meditation. It's been things like yoga, Tai Chi. And for me, getting into the ocean is a huge one. I love castles. I think castles are beautiful. However, for me, I can't see myself living in a castle. I can definitely see myself doing a retreat in a castle. That'd be really cool. But for me, I need to get into the ocean at least once a week, right? Like I do a 90-minute beach walk, and I have a beach swim at least once a week. And even if it's winter, I don't care if it's winter, I'm going to get myself in that the salt water. So for me, that fills my cup up, and that helps me remain calmer, so that when all this stuff is happening, or when my mind is going a million miles an hour, I just come back to my body and just take a few deep breaths and go, okay, what's the next thing to focus on, Aldwyn? And that's what I say to myself. Okay, what's the next thing to focus on? And then I have in my calendar, I have the main things to do each day. And I don't always get them done, right? I don't always get them done. But when I do, I tick it off, and I feel really good when I tick it off my list. And I notice how good I feel when I get stuff done that I say I'm going to do. And I notice how crap I feel when I'm not honoring my word. Like today, coming on late, I was in a bit of a fluster. I was like, oh my gosh, sort of beating myself up a little bit this morning. Like, I should have got up earlier. Like I felt quite bad about that. But then I thought, okay, just let that go. I can't control that right now. I can only do what I can do. And I was in communication as soon as I could get into communication about it with you, and, etc. So we just, you do what you can. You do the best you can with what you have, and enjoy the ride. That's my big tip. What about you, Mandy? What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. And I think because we're talking about this connection between creativity and neurodiversity, and I think it's really important to honor the condition itself, the condition of creativity and the condition of neurodiversity. You need flexibility in your life and your work. So why not design a life and a job that works for you, that allows you to do those things and find the solutions to the problems that you are experiencing around your creativity or around your neurodiversity. A lot of the women that I come across don't believe in themselves. You know, you mentioned in my bio, starving artist syndrome. Many creatives are told, you know, you got Auntie Vera and Uncle Bob saying it's a nice hobby, but you'll never make any money from it. So you need to get a proper job. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you've got this neurodiverse brain potentially telling you that, you know, you're not great at organizing, or you're going to get distracted, and then you're comparing yourself to Janie down the road who paints better than you, and that why how can you charge that? So you've got all of this stuff going on, and it's about honoring yourself, your thoughts, your behavior. That's why I constantly say it's so important to get to know yourself. When I created my freebie, The Mind of a Creative, honestly, literally, my 35 observations of the creative mind, and it's a little PDF that I've got on my website, and it's been the most downloaded and used freebie that I've had in my business for 5 years. And people download it and they go, "You're in my head, Mandy. How did you know all of this about me?" You're in my head. And what I say is, when you know all of this, when you are informed, and when you understand your brain and how it works, you can put it to work properly for you. You can accept that you are worthy. And the women that come to me generally don't value themselves. Therefore, they don't charge the right money for the services and the goods that they sell. They have no confidence. They've got comparisonitis. They've got procrastination. They've got all these things that pull them away from their main goal all the time. And it is about honoring it and creating a life that you love every day. I love my life. I get up if I want to paint, I get up and paint. I think even while we were talking, I was pinning fabric onto a swatch because I'm making a new animal, because there's always a creative project at one side of me or the other. And what a wonderful position to be in. I live in this mini castle with my themed rooms, and I've got a retreat penned in, and I've just come off a group call with my coaching clients, and I've got a sewing project to that side of me, and a writing project to that side, and an art studio with 4 paintings half finished in it. But what a wonderful life that I can go and do whatever I feel like doing. So I've designed the life for me. And I think that's it. You design the life for you. Color code your life like you've done. Yeah. Create the visuals. Believe in yourself. Believe in the visuals, and ask yourself every single day, what am I doing today to create the life of my dreams?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And there's nothing wrong with you. I think that's a huge one. You talked about self-love, and that's been a massive journey for me, because most people have some version of I'm not good enough, I don't belong, or I'm not loved running the show. And when you've got those three running the show, you're never going to create the life of your dreams, because you're always going to have some imposter syndrome, some version of I'm not good enough going on. And so it's just a matter, okay, recognizing that, acknowledging that. Usually it's some kind of trauma from our childhood that we've carried through to later life, and we haven't dealt with it. And this is where, I've invested over $1 million in my business and personal development, and I will keep investing. I think it's so crucial to stay at the top of your game, to be the best you can, and do the inner work. And this is where I've done a lot of women's circles events. I've done a lot of, things like sweat lodges and all sorts of different kind of spiritual and physical and emotional work, and doing we're multifaceted beings, so doing the work on multi levels, not just training your mind and educating your mind, but actually really tapping into your body and your soul, and what is it that I really want, what is it that fills me up, what is it that brings me joy, and how can I do more of that, how can I make that happen, how can I create the life of my dreams like Mandy has, how can I have it so that if I want to go and do some tapestry, I'll do that, and if I want to go and do some artwork right now, and if I feel like I'll go and do that, or I'll having it all set up so that it's easy for you to manage these beautiful creative waves that we have through life and through our everyday. That's beautiful. So Ken, what do you see in what we've shared that you can now bring to your, this potential? Well, what I was hearing is imposter syndrome. Like when you look at, okay, like working the numbers. Okay, so I want this castle, and then working back from there. Okay, so to have this castle, how much am I going to need? What am I going to need to put in place? Which is kind of like, it's kind of like business 101 stuff. It's like, okay, what is the end goal? What do I need to do to achieve that goal, and breaking it back? But as a neurodivergent, as a creative person, putting creativity into that, because I must say I also have been very challenged by numbers, and I can get very bored with numbers, and I can, however, if we don't know the numbers, we can't manage the numbers, and the numbers are actually an indication of how much impact we're having in the world. The numbers show how much service we are being to the world, and sometimes we collapse the numbers with sleazy salespeople that are going to rip people off, and because there are some very wealthy people that are very nasty, and there's some very wealthy people that are also amazing people who work from the heart and give so much to charity and give so much to others. So it's all about the yin yang of life. What are we going to choose to focus on, and what is our subconscious telling us, and what is stopping us potentially? When we have these thoughts of okay, why don't I like those numbers? Why am I challenged by those numbers? Like actually just doing, having a bit of an inquiry without making yourself wrong about it, but just actually sort of looking at, okay, I wonder where that comes from. I wonder where that feeling of why I'm not liking that right now, right? Up until now, why? And I think the minute you get an awareness, as Mandy said too, the minute we have an awareness, oh, that's interesting that I'm finding I'm resisting that. I'm resisting the numbers there, or I'm resisting this. The minute we get an awareness about it, we can help shift it. And having the right mentors and the right, support structure for that, I think is very important too, because also realizing that you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. We're all unique individuals. We're all so connected, and we're all unique creative individuals as well, which is an absolutely beautiful thing. And having that self-expression, having that creative expression, I think is so important. And particularly if you've had any depression in the past, like actually creativity is one of the best ways you can overcome depression or any kind of, suicidal thoughts as well, potentially. So Ken, back to you. What are your thoughts?
I think, so I think for me, there's a couple aspects. So I know for sure that I've definitely come a long ways over the last 2 years, and kind of like dismantling some of the stuff that's been inside of me, and what's the word I want to use? Dissecting it, and all of that. And I think a large part of where I am today, I've got a global client base now, which is something about 1.5 years ago was a dream to be able to say. It's like, oh my gosh, I have now a global client base. I have, X amount of people that have come through my boot camp, have paid that price, and different things like that. So that was a major breakthrough, and that was a major step in my business and what I do. Now, the next thing that I'm working on with my coach is now we're working on seeding the language in the boot camp to bring my clients from the boot camp to now my premium offer. That's the next step. So now I'm kind of like dreaming and like grabbing at the day where I start getting those premium clients coming through at those prices. And so a couple things, and then I want to speak into this one word that I wrote down here, because this is still a struggle of mine, and I know it is. And, but I think over this last year of growth and leadership growth in me, and thought leadership growth in me, and the growth in my business and the global client base has all come by the particular coaching that I have right now. Meaning, I love Francine, but I think it's not, for me, it's not just about having a coach like Francine. I have access to her through an app on my phone called Voxer. I have access to her on a daily basis. If I have a question, if I get stuck on something or anything, I send a voice message to her, and then when she gets the chance, she'll send me one back. And oftentimes we'll spend about 20 minutes having a conversation over Voxer like that. I think for me and who I am, being ADHD, like legitimately diagnosed in childhood, I think that's been the hugest thing for me, is having that kind of daily accountability and daily interaction with somebody. In the past, when I've had coaches, it's been one meeting every 2 weeks or whatever, and maybe, a little bit of messaging back and forth through Messenger. That's what it's been. And there was a major, there's a major hole that was always there with that type of coaching versus the kind of coaching that I have now, which is a day-to-day interaction. If I need to, I'll reach out to her. And even if I'm working on something and I want to share that, I will share that with her. It's a whole different ball game for me, and I think that's been huge this last year on getting me where I am with my business, is that kind of interaction with my accountability and coach. And I've always kind of known that about myself, that's the kind of accountability and coaching that I need. And she provides that for me, which is one of the reasons why I think I'm where I'm at now. And now, here's the thing that I want to speak into. You've mentioned this quite a few times, Mandy, and I mean, we did a mastermind together, and then we did another interview, you and I together, and you've also mentioned this particular word in both of those. And so I want to speak into that because this particular word that I'm about to say is still a struggle with me. I notice it, and it drives me absolutely bonkers most of the time. It's this word bored. Mm-hmm. I will get into something. See, here's the thing. One of the things that I realize about myself is I love to do deep dive research, especially when what I want to deep dive into and the information I want starts flowing and it gets to me and I can find it. And where I get frustrated and bored with that is when something that I'm looking for is now hard to find, such as it's been censored so much, it's so far down, it's buried, and I have to take so much time to try to find it. I will get bored very easy. So that's one thing. Second thing is there are areas of my business that I work on, and I often find myself falling into that I'm bored. Yep. I'm bored. How do I get out of that? See, I know there are certain things that I must work on in my business to move that needle forward on where I need to be. But a lot of times there's a lot of certain things where, and I don't sit there and go, I'm bored. It happens in this form. I'll get stuck, or maybe the thought isn't quite coming. And then the first reaction is I pick up my phone and I start to scroll reels and different things like that. Or I'll distract myself. I'll get up from my desk and I'll go do different things. Or it could be a number of different things. That's how it manifests itself in me, being bored. I will get distracted very, very easily. How do I effectively break through some of that boredom when I know I've got to be present for something and work on something and stay focused on something, but then, and it's not even intentional. Like I don't want to be bored. I want to be able to focus, but I get bored and then it's like distraction. So anyhow, that's the word I kind of want to lean into with that, because I know for me, that's a huge struggle. It still is. Hey, all my life, I've gone through different books, never finished a book. There is only one book series, and it's amazing that it's a series because I've never finished a book, let alone gone through a series, but there's only one book series that I've been through cover to cover in my life. And oddly enough, interesting enough, it was the Twilight series, but it was because of the way she wrote it. Stephanie Meyer wrote it in such a way, it was so captivating to me and pulled me in. I had 4:00 in the morning nights and all that other stuff with that book series, because I was just so drawn into it, unlike any other book that I have plenty of other books that I bought, and a lot of them I bought because I like the titles. I like, the approach that they've got. When you have a title like The Great Plant-Based Con, that is an attractive title for me, and I bought that book. The book is extremely thick. All I've done with it is section it out into resource sections. To think about trying to read that book cover to cover, hell no, that'll never happen. This is me. I'm giving you an insight into my brain and things I struggle with, but it's this boredom. So how do I break free from that boredom when I know I've got to be focused on something that I'm having a hard time being focused on? Even the things that I love, sometimes I'm getting bored with them. So how do you like battle that?
I think the first thing is it's going to be a constant battle for you because you are ADHD. There is no quick fix or simple solution to that other than recognizing that it's there and going, right, okay, I need to have multiple projects on the go. If that's what works for you, having multiple projects on the go that you can flip from one to the other. And a working day, I start work at 10 and I finish work at 4. And in those 6 hours, I am going to do the work for my business. And outside of those 6 hours, I am going to do other things. But within that, I can have multiple projects because I get the boredom. It happens to me. I can have something in my diary and I know I've got to work on that day. And I'm like, I don't want to work on that today. That's not what I'm feeling today. Therefore, I'm going to move that to another day and I'm going to do one of my other projects. And I think you will need variety. Otherwise, you will go to doom scrolling and you will go to the automatic things that the ADHD, because you're an addict as well. We talked about addiction in our masterclass.
Yes, we did.
One of the big traits of ADHD and autism is addiction. We are easily addicted. So that can show up in so many different forms as well. Yes, it can be substances. Yes, it can be food. It can be paintbrushes and paint. You can go in an art shop and spend 200 quid every time because you can't help it, even if you don't need it. The dopamine and the instant gratification.
Yeah.
So what is your instant gratification? What is it you personally need so that you don't go into that doom scrolling and boredom? I know what it is for me because I was doing it earlier. I was pinning fabric onto my sewing project. It's there at the side of me. And my book is at this side of me. I've said that I'm surrounded by the multiple different things that I can do at any point in time. So how do you do that? And even if you do that.
Yeah. That's what I need to find. I need to find those things throughout my day. Here's the other thing that I also wanted to say, but I wanted you to continue is, so sometimes I find myself switching to something else.
Yep.
But then there's those times where I do make that switch. Now I'm feeling guilty that I'm not doing this thing that's moving my business, that's going to move my business forward. Now I've got that voice going, see? You're now doing this. You're backstage in your business now. You're not front stage anymore. And then the self chatter just begins. I mean, there's a multiple of like things that go on. And I mean, I'm not necessarily saying I want the quick fix behind boredom. I mean, I would love it, but I know it's not going to be that easy. I think I'm still in a lot of senses trying to find my ground on what that looks like. Because also my schedule is kind of all over the place in the aspect of I don't know if I necessarily can plan out this block of time. I am only doing this. My lifestyle and schedule doesn't quite work that way. Some days I might be able to get away with something like that if I block it enough ahead of time, but having that consistent week after week after week, that's just almost unthinkable just because my schedule is so movable and flexible in so many ways. You know, it's just because anything can happen in any matter of time. It could be something as simple as my cat over here is driving me crazy because he wants to eat and my mom's not available to assess that. And so now I've got to break away and figure out how to do, and that takes time, you know, and that's another thing too. I will beat myself up over the time issue. Things that sometimes I'll go and I'll know a task that I'm working on should take 10 to 15 minutes. And then because of the technical difficulties or whatever thing, maybe I can't find something or whatever, now it's taking me an hour. That probably, I would say, is a huge energy drainer for me. When a task takes longer than I know it should, that's a huge energy drainer for me. It's a huge frustration. I will often go into guilt. I will often go into shame because of it, and all of that stuff. So, I mean, these are, and again, back to something that my coach Francine said to me multiple times early on, you are extremely hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's common. Very common. Yeah. And probably the question I get asked the most in group calls, how do I stop beating myself up for things? How do I stop doing this? How do I, all the time, every week in, week out, same question from the neurodiverse and creative crew. And there isn't an answer to it other than the more you get to know yourself and the more you get to know these traits that you are naturally drawn to, because you will be naturally drawn to some of the traits of your condition and not to others. And the more you understand it, the more you can put things in place, the more you can put the strategies in place that will help you. And meditation does help, and journaling does help. And there are lots of methods out there. There's the Pomodoro technique for time management. It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. There's lots of different things and techniques that work but they don't work for everybody. And I think it's really interesting, because the truth about creativity and neurodiversity is you can't put it in a box. It doesn't fit in a nice little neat square box. It doesn't fit with the neurotypical, this is the way you do things, because it's a bit like this. It's all over the place. It's not the straight line of growth. It's the wavy all over the place. I'm going to be up one day, down the next, bored 1 minute, excited the next, doing hyper focus and working on 10 things and getting them all done and smashing it, and then having to retreat for 3 days because I can't work, because that's the nature of the condition. And anybody who's got it will recognize all of those things. That's it. I'm on it this week. 2 days. I've done 2 14-hour days. Now I need a week off because I can't function and I can't speak to people. And it is all of those things. And it's just really about getting to know and having those. And I do highly recommend journaling and meditation and breathing and all of those things, because they are grounded.
Meditation for me, I've tried meditation. Those moments where you're supposed to sit there and just meditate and let all the thoughts just drain out of your head. That doesn't work. That does not work with me. I will get annoyed because thoughts keep coming and there's no way to stop it. And it drives me nuts. Another way that manifests in my life is the 4 o'clock in the morning thing. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, can't get back to sleep for 2 hours. My brain is rattling off this and this, and you forgot about this. And sometimes it's not self-damaging. Sometimes it's really, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, and this, and oh, and that. Other times it is self-damaging, where it's just like, you forgot about this project and this and this. And you need to work on this. And what about this person? You haven't reached out to that person. You need to follow up with this. And it just drives me crazy. I don't know why the whole meditation thing is so challenging for me. But even oftentimes when people are just like, visualize this and visualize yourself at the beach and hear the waves and everything else. There's like a very small part of that picture that ends up in my head. The rest of it is chatter and ideas and things. And sometimes it's not even ideas. It's just random thoughts. And then I'm having to chase back to, oh, I'm supposed to be at the beach. Okay, back to this. Oh, but what about this over here? That drives me crazy.
Yeah. A lot of ADHD people struggle with meditation for exactly the same reason. What I like to discover fairly early on with them is, what is their key sense? Are they visual? Are they kinesthetic? Is it about a sense of smell? Do they need to hear things? What is it that works for them? Because actually, I do that early on in my program with my creatives. Which is your lead sense? What's the thing that you need? Is it music? Is it sound? Or is it a visual, a very, very strong visual? What is it? Or is it touch? Is it feel? You know, what is it that is going to function for you? And guided meditations that are only 2 or 3 minutes long can be really good for the ADHD brain, with somebody talking all the way through and describing with music playing in the background or water running or whatever. They can be really helpful. So I think, again, it's like one size does never fits all in the ADHD community, because we are all so very different.
You've actually given me a little bit of an aha moment there. So I think, like, with things like meditation, I think what I need to do is find where that strong point is. What do I need to keep my focus? And I think I might have a hint of it, because one of the things that I do commonly do, and I've started doing more so over the last 1.5 to 2 years, is I've got some kind of background music on. And depending on the day, it just depends on what kind of background music. Some days I'm in the mood for just some jazzy kind of like piano tunes in the background. Some days I'm in the mood for, I don't know, a little bit more deep house kind of music, something a little bit more fast paced. It just really depends. And that does indeed help me focus better.
Yes, I think that's brilliant. And I was challenged with meditation a lot in my earlier years. I remember doing an alpha course with my parents when I was about 10 or 11 in high school. And I remember falling asleep through half the meditations. And I had this thing like, oh, I don't like meditation. I can't do meditation, whatever. However, that in itself is a meditation. And Denny Luna just says here, Ken, you are not a bad meditator. You just haven't found the right teacher. Also, true meditation is not just sitting still. It's in action. So, it could be there's moments we have, it's great, isn't it? I'll put that back up again. Thank you for that, Danny Luna on LinkedIn. Appreciate that. And half the thing is the conversations we have with ourselves. Like, if you constantly say I'm a bad meditator, then you're going to constantly sabotage yourself with that. And the other thing I say, back to the topic about boredom, if you're bored with something, if you don't like doing it, then outsource it. One of the best things I've done in my business career is outsourcing. And, I have a VA that does 50 hours a week of stuff that bores me. A lot of it bores me, and I give it to her and she handles it. For example, sending birthday greetings. Now, I initially created the birthday greeting. For anyone who's received a birthday greeting from me on social media, I created it. I came up with the concept, and I've given her the format. And she goes every day and she sends out these beautiful birthday greetings to people. But that would bore the hell out of me, sending that to every single person on my social media. However, for her, she does it. And we talk about strategies such as putting relaxation music on in the background. And in fact, we had a team meeting last night while I was at the hospital. In my, mum was sleeping next to me in the hospital room, and I was having a team meeting with my team member in the Philippines. And we talked to, I said, look, at any one time, there's going to be a million things going on in life. And particularly if you're in business, there's always going to be so much you can do. And it's okay, how do we manage that? And one of the things is playing relaxing music in the background while we're working. And I find that really helps to calm my state. And in calming my state, I'm able to be so much more focused and so much more productive. And I can relate to what Mandy was saying too about the addictive personality. Like, I know I have had an addiction to my work. I have been a workaholic for a long time. And this is where, interestingly, I had a few birthday parties in January. It was my birthday on the 16th of January. I had 2 birthday parties because, some friends couldn't make one and some can make the other, etc. So anyway, interestingly, some of my girlfriends, and you know who you are, said, oh, Aldwyn's never going to give up her work and look after her mum. She's never going to, she's a work, like, I obviously come across like a full-on workaholic. However, here I am, I'm spending now 90% of my week, 95% of my week caring for my mum and my elderly dad while also running my business. Yes, I've said no to a few things in the background. Yes, I've stepped back a bit. I didn't go to the Sydney conference last week that I was due to go to. I did the conference online in between managing things for dad and mum. And, and this is the beauty of being an entrepreneur and having this creativity that, at any moment, I can shift and manage things, but it's also about your values. Like, I find it quite interesting that some girlfriends thought I would never, be able to look after my mum. There I was this morning before the show. I was changing the pad with the nurse for my mum because, she can't walk at the moment. She can't go to the toilet. So there I was managing that
and it's challenging. It can be really challenging, but it's about your values. Your family's not here forever. We're not here forever. No. So, and that actually in that moment, changing the pad for my mum, I thought, I can't leave my mum with a dirty pad while I go and do my show. For me in that moment, it was more important that I changed my mum's pad so she had a clean pad before I left the hospital this morning, right? That was more important for me at that moment. Yes, we had the show a little bit late, and yes, I put some of you out. But for me, that's, it blows me away that people see a version of you and they don't really know the true you. And then my question is, well, do you really know the true you? It's when life sometimes throws these curveballs, when the pressure comes, that's when diamonds are created, right? That's when we show who we truly are and what we truly stand for. And that comes back to the basis of everything we're talking about here is what brings you joy. What is it that lights you up? What can you do with what you have available in front of you now to make a difference for yourself and for others? And we do the best we can, right? And we can always do better. Yes, we can, right? And we can always do worse too. So then it's about, okay, what can you acknowledge yourself for today? And this is another great practice at the end of your day to go, okay, what really worked well today? What could I maybe improve tomorrow? Okay. And because we're human beings, we're multifaceted, we're creative beings. We're going to, have all of this happening at different times. And you do the best you can with what you have available. And for me, another huge practice has been gratitude, coming back to gratitude for everything. Even though, yes, my mum got knocked over by a carer in her house a week before Christmas. Yes, there's parts of me that's really frustrated and angry and pissed off about that happening, that totally transformed someone who was walking and feeding herself for 10 weeks now, being in a hospital bed, unable to walk and feed herself. And she had her 81st birthday yesterday in hospital, right? And my beautiful friend Rita, she came up from Sydney and she bought a beautiful cake and flowers, and we made that the most beautiful experience for her mum, for my mum. I just like her mum too. It's like Rita's mum. She's like family for us. We made that as good as we could make it for her in hospital, her 81st birthday. She has dementia, okay, which is very challenging in itself, 10 years with dementia. We don't know if she'll ever walk again. We don't know, right? We don't know if she'll ever be able to fully feed herself again. However, I'm still so grateful that I have my mum here and I have my dad here. And if I was to focus fully on my work and not look after them, then, what does that say about me? And I think, well, our parents, and it just went 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 on the clock. Our parents do that for us as kids, right? The least we can do is be there for them in their final years.
Yep.
And yes, and there's been a lot of trauma, and releasing that, letting the tears flow, letting the emotions flow is also important. So they're just a few different strategies that I've used there to help with boredom, with being an addictive person. I've been addicted to drugs before. I've been addicted to alcohol. I've been addicted to shopping. I've definitely had a shopaholic thing as well, and I'm aware of it. And without beating myself up, it's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. That's brought me lots of joy over the years. And nowadays, some of those things definitely don't serve me. And now, because I am someone who loves my life, I'm not going to go kill myself with drinking and smoking excessively and doing drugs. It just doesn't serve me for what I'm up to in life with where I'm at now. However, I'm so grateful I've done those things in the past. I've seen the dark side, and I'm, now doing my best to live a different life. So a little bit of a rant. Thank you for sticking with me. I've just had a bit of a release there. It's been traumatic. It's been absolutely traumatic, dealing with this. However, thank God I can work on my laptop from anywhere in the world, and I love my life, and I'm so grateful for all of it. And everything happens for us, not to us, right? Everything happens for us, not to us. That's what I constantly remind myself.
Well, yeah, I think, similar note, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today is because my late husband gave me a real hard push towards it and said, stop talking about it and just do it. And I think he taught me more. I said I've been married 4 times, 3 idiots and 1 soulmate. And then the soulmate died on me, and that was just, it happens to us for a reason. And I learned so much. That man who was dying taught me how to live, and he just accepted me, all those weird things and all those creative things and all. And he said, just stop talking about it, live your life. You don't know how long you've got. So live your life and do the thing that you love the most. And I always say that a man that was dying taught me how to live. And that's why I live now, and I think, what's the worst that can happen? That's the risk taker in me. And I've leaned into that part of my autistic trait. And you have got to be really grateful for every second that you have with your parents now, because I would do anything to have another 1 second with Gary, but I'm not going to get that. But I had 7 years with him and they were wonderful. So we have a duty to live our lives.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And that's the gift that has happened in the last 10 weeks since my mum has been knocked. I have had the most amazing quality time with my mum, you know, when she was walking and when she was feeding herself. I didn't have any of this quality time with her. You know, we'd have a few conversations here and there. We'd watch TV together and then we'd go to bed. You know, we'd have some food together. You know, now she can't go anywhere. She's on the hospital bed, and I am with her. I'm present with her, and I appreciate her. And one of the most beautiful things she said, and she's reverted back to speaking Turkish. She grew up in Turkey, and she's reverted back, and she said in Turkish, she said, "Kızım, sen çok seviyorum," which means I love you so much, my daughter. And it was just one of the most beautiful things, you know. And yes, we don't know how long any of us will be here, right? It's just that, you know, generally when you're in your 80s, my mum's 81, dad's 87. You know, and dad's so fragile. He's had 4 heart attacks, prostate cancer, diabetes. I mean, you know, the list goes on. But, you know, he's still here, 87, and they've been married 55 years. So then also dealing with the emotional backlash of dad, you know, now suddenly someone he's been with for 55 years is no longer in the house, and he's now, you know, his health has really gone down. And I've been seeing it, and we have no other family here, right? No other family within even 1,000 kilometers of here. So if I wasn't to just drop everything and be here, what kind of a human being would I be? Yes, so many people go, I'll just put them both in a nursing home, right? Just put them both in a nursing. No, I'm not going to put them both in a nursing home, and we're going to bring mum home, and that's the next step, right? So we'll keep you posted on our socials on how that goes. But yeah, you know, life has its challenges. All you ladies are lovely. Thank you, Denny. That's lovely. And thank you for all those who've joined us and your support. Neko on Instagram, James Donald, Zachariah, State. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much. We are starting to come to the end of our show, but just some final words on this. I know we've just shared a lot. It's been quite an emotional ride, and this is life, right? Life is an emotional roller coaster ride, and we do need to release, you know, whatever comes there, you know, and let it out, like be fully self-expressed. This is the beauty of being creative human beings. It's be fully self-expressed. And this is where, if you want to be one of the people who doesn't die with regrets, and 90% of people die with regrets, and 1/3 of people die by the age of 65, if you don't want to be one of those people, then get creative, get fully self-expressed, do what lights you up, do what brings you joy. If you've got 20 different things going at once, well, so be it. You know, get into it, enjoy everything you do as you're doing this amazing journey of life. And that's it for me, and I'll sign that down. I'll see you next time. And we're not quite ready to wrap up yet, but you know, that's what I have to say today. So, what are your thoughts from all that, Ken or Mandy? What would you like to add to that?
Mandy, I'm going to hand it to you because you're, you know, this is your field. So you go.
Absolutely. And I think what I would say, you know, as a parting comment to that is believe that you are absolutely amazing. Stand in front of that mirror, and I do this exercise with women when they come here, and tell yourself that you love yourself just as you are right now. You love yourself, and you know how talented you are, that you are an absolute genius. That's why I show up and say, hey, I'm Mandy, and I am the creative genius consultant. Nobody else owns that title. That's me, because I deserve that power in the world, and you deserve your power in the world. Own it. Own your power. Show up and be that creative light, and be that wacky neurodiverse person who forgets everything and does 14 things a day. It doesn't matter. Do you know what? It's blinking awesome.
Yes, beautifully said, Mandy. Love that. And Ken, how's your boredom factor going right now? How are you feeling?
I'm writing stuff down. I love that statement. Yeah, there's no boredom going on right now. It's like fully engaged. You know, I'm like, whoa. Let's go. This is good stuff. I love that statement, and this, and how that statement would apply to me is I am the mastery weight loss coach. I've actually never said it that way. And I'm like going, oh, that is an entirely different way of thinking about it. So I'm going to start using that language from now on.
Use it.
Yes, love that. Love that. Ken, that is awesome. And I'm the media queen, and I don't care what anyone says.
No,
media
you
queen.
aren't the media queen. You are the media queen.
The media queen. And the media queen is also, it's about crowning yourself. It's actually, we are all actually queens or kings in our own life, whatever you identify as nowadays. Let's not go down that path, but whatever it is for you, it's about you are your own self-worth, right? You are your own magnificent, identity of whoever you want to be. And it's about crowning yourself. It's like, you don't need to be born into royalty to put yourself out there and to be creative and to be fully self-expressed, right? Because, as Mandy said, in the dying, the gift you see is when someone is dying around you, you see the gift of what life is, that it's so beautiful. And I think this is, why I love animals so much, why I'm so connected to animals, and why I think animals are so good for us. Even just noticing how a bird goes about its day, for example, how present animals are. If you have a cat, of course, Ken and I both have cats. I have a few rescue cats at the moment who I miss dearly. And thankfully I have a caretaker looking after those while I'm with my folks. But animals are a great reminder of how amazing the world is and how beautiful the present moment is with whoever you're with, wherever you're at. And it's actually partly as an ADHD or autistic or neurodivergent with these million thoughts going a day. I mean, most people have 60,000 thoughts a day. So probably add ADHD, autism to that, probably put another zero on that, probably 600 thoughts a day, or maybe sometimes 6 million thoughts a day, right? And 98% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday, and 80% for most people are negative. And so half the thing I think in life is getting conscious to where we've been unconscious. And that's partly why we do the Total Truth Show, is actually about helping lift the consciousness on the planet. And, my wish is for those who tune in, if tuned in live, or if you're watching the replay, let us know live or replay in the comments. My wish is that hopefully today we have helped, give you some awareness around something today in your life, and help to lift your consciousness into how you do life without beating yourself up or making yourself wrong about it, and actually looking at everything, all the challenges, look at them as ways that you can find the learnings and actually come to appreciation around whatever that challenge is, because everything helps mold us to where we are today. And the fact that you're still here and you're tuning in says it ain't over yet, right? Like, hop on that roller coaster ride of life, strap yourself in and go for it, right? Have the most amazing life. And what does that look like for you? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. What is your dream life for you? What is your castle, as Mandy said, right? What is your castle? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Now, as we start to wrap up, final thoughts on this topic, the truth about creativity and neurodiversity, Mandy.
I think, if you suspect that you have struggled throughout your life and that you might be neurodiverse, then do actually explore it. If you're creative, so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're creative, if you have all these ideas all the time and your mind is busy and you've noticed some of the traits that we've spoken about today, explore it, and don't be fobbed off by the medical profession saying, oh, it's trending at the moment. It's trending because there's so many people that are undiagnosed because they've been fobbed off with other things. But know that it means you are special. You are really extra special. It is corny, but it is your superpower. My kids are the most amazing kids. They have been through mainstream school. My daughter has a first-class honors degree in art and design, and she won the New Graduate Award. My son has got art qualifications to HND level. They are amazing human beings. They just happen to also be autistic. And own it. And if you suspect it, explore it, but don't see it as a negative. People go, well, I don't want a label. It's not a label, it's knowledge. Knowledge is power. Yeah. When you understand that right brain of yours and all the things that trigger you and all the things that make you tick, you can tap into that power and really use it to leverage your life. And that's what you should be doing. So own it.
I love that. And applied knowledge is even more powerful, right? How often do we know things and not do it? So knowing and not doing is like not knowing. So also actually taking the action around that. Like, what is one action you can take from today? We've given so many gold nuggets in this show. What is one action you can take moving forward to have a more empowered life? And that comes down to having a more empowered day, a more empowered hour, a more empowered moment. What is that for you? And it could be just taking a deep breath. Right? Could just be grounding yourself, could just be connecting with nature, right? What is that for you? Ken, final thoughts on the topic?
I think I've got a lot to think about since this episode. Mandy, we've had 2 previous engagements prior to this, and I think I have come away with some real special golden nuggets today on this particular conversation. Now, I've valued both of the other previous conversations we've had, and they've both been absolutely powerful. But I think today I kind of feel like we kind of took a way deeper dive into this subject, and it kind of allowed the space for me to be able to open up and share, all right, here's what I see in me, and here's the struggles that I have, and different things like that. So I really, really appreciate that space has been opened. Mandy, the other thing that I just want to say is you are one, I say this in a very professional way, you are one very unique person. You come across, you come into a room with the presence of owning that room, and with the presence of being a thought leader in what you talk about and what you do. You come in with that professional presence, and just, it's really hard for me to kind of like explain the way I want to bring this across. So I'm hoping your own head is like translating this for me, but you come across in a good way as having it all together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, beautiful, Ken. It's been a very special show. I don't think I've cried that much on a show for a while, so thank you for that. Thank you for holding the space for the tears to come. And thank you also to everyone who's joined us live. I see Nadia Loves Chocolate has joined us. Yeah, I love chocolate. Actually, there you go. There's a great tip for us all. Have some chocolate. If all else fails, have some chocolate. And what type of chocolate are we going to have our health gurus in the room? Ken, what type of chocolate is great for us? Can you share?
Dark chocolate.
There you go.
Dark chocolate. There you go.
And cacao, right? Cacao's beautiful too.
Cacao, yes.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, in winding up, so Mandy, now you have a book out, is that correct? Oh, Mandy's frozen, I think. She's frozen in a very calm state. It looks like she's currently having a meditation moment. Oh, there we are. She's back. Well,
are you back, Mandy?
Her eyes are blinking. Can you hear us, Mandy?
She's trying to manage it.
It's a moment of meditation. There was like a moment of, she looked like she was in a really peaceful state there. Can you hear us, Mandy? Okay, she's coming. I know she's had some internet issues. See, this is what happens when you live in a castle. I've
lost the internet. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. Oh, you were back for a second. I'm sure I can see the little wheel going. Hopefully she'll be back in just a moment. Let's see. I'll just put her in the back there for a moment until she comes back. Oh, here she is, coming back on here, I believe. All right, let's see. We are about to wrap up the show. So let us know if you've joined us live. Let us know what you've got out of this show so far today. What have you got out of this, and what action are you going to take moving forward? Can you hear us, Mandy? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Are you back?
Sorry, internet.
Okay, awesome. No, great to have you back. No, it was beautiful because we kind of all went into a bit of a meditation there as we were kind of all, so you had this beautiful peaceful look on your face, and we just all kind of, went, well,
yeah, the
nice.
Screen, your screen froze, and the face that it froze you in was like, most people, when they freeze like that, it's like some weird awkward face, like,
Yeah.
or something like. You had like this most peaceful face. You had a smile, and you froze like that. It's like it was almost like a meditative state. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was perfect for what we're chatting about right now. And life is not about what happens to you or for you. It's all about how you deal with life, how you work with life, how you do life, right? That's really what it's all about. And so we were just asking Mandy, now you have a book out, is that correct? You have a book that you've released as one of your 50 million projects. Oh, now we've got the happy face. Oh, there we are. Okay, can you hear us?
No, that's coming again.
Oh, okay. We heard bits of you. Internet. Oh, don't you love it? Technology is great when it works.
Yeah, this is correct. Technology is great when it works. Well, we'll get the answer about her book out one way or another. So
let's come back. Let's come back to that. How about we go to you, Ken, and then when Mandy comes back on, we'll share. So how can people connect with you, and what's your quote or motto that you'd like to share with us today as well?
Quote. I'm afraid for today's quote, like I'm kind of almost taken off kilter because I'm kind of like, what the heck? But you know what? I'm gonna say this. So it may not necessarily be a quote, but it's a quote from me. So there you go. I'm gonna just say this. When it comes to focusing in, when it comes to meditating, find that one thing that's going to cause you to just zero in, whether it's music, whether it's one of the senses or whatever, what we talked about earlier today on the show with Mandy. I think that's a big aha moment for me, is find the one thing that is going to keep me focused in that particular meditation state. And also, when I do struggle with boredom, when you do struggle with boredom, find the different avenues like that is going to empower you through that. So it's not really a quote, but that's what I've got here. So anyhow, Mandy, Are you back?
I'm back.
All right. So let's ask you the question that we were trying to ask you before and you kept freezing. You've got a book out, so share a little bit about that book.
Okay, Beyond the Ordinary. I'll hold it up in front of me and see it there. Okay, so it is Beyond the Ordinary, Discover the Power of Creative and Neurodiverse Women. So this is a self-help guide written by me, featuring the stories of 30 creative and neurodiverse women. So it's a dual purpose book. It's there's 38 chapters of mine, which is the observations on this connection between creativity and neurodiversity, but interspersed with stories from real women that have had real struggles. So we've now actually converted it into a podcast as well. So we're reading a chapter at a time out and doing it as a podcast. And we did get an Amazon #1 bestseller with it last October when we launched it. So it's available on Amazon as a book and on Spotify and Apple and all the other podcasting sites as a podcast.
Amazing. And that cover looks so cool. Looks like a really creative brain. Can you just show that cover again? Oh, wow. I love that. Beyond the Ordinary.
It's a creative brain, but it's a tree as well. So obviously designed by one of my creatives. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I've got the Tree of Life ring. Look, there's my little Tree of Life ring there.
Oh yeah.
So I love the Tree of Life. Got quite a few of those. I love that, Mandy. That is so cool. So was it kind of like, was it a compilation book where people submitted chapters, or did you refer to people's stories?
No. They submitted chapters. So longer than the average chapter, about 2,500 words. So that it's a proper stories about how they've coped with neurodiversity. There's chapters on addiction. There's chapters on all of the traits that we see in neurodiversity in there, as well as creativity. So, and there's colour photographs of their artwork in there as well. It's a lovely book. It's a coffee table book.
Oh, it sounds amazing. Well, I would have loved to have been in that if I knew about it earlier. Are you doing another one?
Possibly, yes. I've been asked that, and maybe.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you do another one, I'm interested. I'll put my hand up.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well done. And where can people get a copy of that, and where can they connect with you?
So you can connect with me on mandynicholson.co.uk. That's my main website. You can buy the book from there. I think there's a pop-up that will pop up in the first 30 seconds and say, buy the book. You can buy the book on Amazon.
Okay, beautiful. And for those that are tuning in on audio, go to Mandy Nicholson. That's Mandy Nicholson, NICHOLSON.co.uk. All right, you can check that out. And the link tree /Violet, VIOLET AURAART. Yeah,
Violet Aura Art.
Yeah, Violet Aura Art. Okay, beautiful. Love that. And what's a quote or motto you could share with us today, Mandy?
I say this to my client. Yeah, I say this to my clients all the time, and this is about me and my values. How you do anything is how you do everything. So do everything well.
Yes,
That's
love that,
great.
Mandy.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Love that. Awesome. And Ken was sharing his motto, his thoughts earlier. So where can people connect with you, Ken?
Well, I've actually got 2 quotes now that I want to share, and then I'll get into the connect. So I found these 2, and this one I'm going to share first because this one I'm just like, yes, that is me. The greatest minds are not those who follow the well-worn path, but those who dare to create a new one. Yes. And that's by Ken Robinson's. And then here's another one, just a secondary one here. If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. And that's by Maya Angelou. I'm not going to try to pronounce her last. Oh, so you know that already. Okay.
Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
Maya Angelou. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to put it. Yeah. I slaughter last names. So there we go.
Yeah.
So how people can connect with me. You can connect with me at www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. At the top of that page, you're going to find a button there that basically sends you to a mini educational bootcamp series that I have running right now. So if you don't know, I have lost 62.5 pounds and I've kept it off for 7 years now, all without a diet, having that be sustainable. And right now, I'm literally giving away my 3 secrets to help you break free from sugar addiction, snacking issues, hunger issues, emotional eating, all of it. Food addictions. We talked greatly about addictions today, didn't we? Well, this will help you break free from food addictions. I am giving away those 3 secrets. So, in 3 phases with me, you will be equipped with an empowered mindset shift. Number 1. Number 2, you will be equipped to see past the industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls. And number 3, you will be equipped to see past the marketing deceptions of the food industry and be able to make actual informed choices and know that what you're actually buying is healthy and you're not just buying into the marketing deceptions. This happens in just 3 phases with me. The boot camp is literally listed or has literally been valued at $1,500 right now. Until I raise the price again, it's only $97 for all of that. And it is a steal. You've got nothing to lose but those extra pounds, and you've got everything to gain in the right way and in a very freeing way. This boot camp is educational. It's not a food plan. It's not a workout plan. It is a foundation that will change you forever in a good way. So there's a link to join that boot camp there. There's 3 other links there on how you can connect with me. There's a link to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check that out. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Connect with me on Facebook. And there's even a link on there to book a free getting to know you call. All right. So that's how you can connect with me. www.masteryweightloss.com/connect.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. Love that. And I have done your boot camp and it's awesome. So definitely if you want to, transform your health or the way you do food or even what's going on with the food industry, you will learn so much from that. Highly recommend Ken. He's awesome at what he does. And for those who want to connect with me, you can hop along to my linktree/Aldwyn, which is right here. Now, this is actually my second YouTube channel here. My first one has had a few strikes from, all the censorship, right? So this is a massive thing I stand for, is freedom of information. And this is why I recommend don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Have multiple social media channels out there, because we don't own any of these social media platforms. Anything could happen at any moment. So we are right now, we're streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. X is why we have BitChute, Rumble. This is why we have Spotify. We have multiple channels where we put our content. We have backup of all of our content. And so, this is where Total Truth Show is about speaking your truth. And some people don't like that because it goes against certain agendas. And so for those out there, look, the truth is coming out. The truth always comes out in the end. That's not my quote for today, though. I do have 3 quotes, and then I'll talk more about my link. We'll come back to that in a moment. So 3 quotes I want to share with you today. The first one is from Albert Einstein, and it's: creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. Okay, that's one quote about creativity. Next one: autism is not a tragedy. Ignorance is the tragedy. And different, not less. Okay, autism or ADHD does not have to define a person, right? So getting that there's nothing wrong with you. And then my last thought around this on the quote is: neurodiversity may be every bit as crucial for the human race as biodiversity is for life in general. Who can say what form of wiring will prove best at any given moment? Now, this is a quote by Harvey Bloom, and it highlights the potential value of different brain patterns, connecting neurodiversity to the wider concept of diverse strengths and creativity within a population, to the wider concept of diverse strengths and creativity within a population. Okay, so actually being neurodiverse is part of the beautiful fabric of life, right? And it's critical and crucial for the human race, right? Biodiversity is absolutely essential. And we look at all the animals out there, and you look at all of nature and all the different shades of green amongst the trees and the different types of plants. And, I'm sure there's, we could classify some as neurodivergent, right? It's interesting that we look at some plants and we say, well, that's a weed and that's a flower, right? Okay, what makes that a weed and makes that a flower, right? It's kind of like neurodiverse, what we classify as neurodiverse. Some people may look at it as weeds and some may look as flowers, and some weeds may see themselves as flowers and some flowers may see themselves as weeds, right? But the flowers don't look at the other flowers in the field and go, I'm better than you, or you're more pretty than me, or, they just are, right? They just are. And so on that, how can we connect together? We'll go to a linktree/Aldwyn. You'll see all my links. So what I do is I help you package up your genius, help you package it up and help you get out there to be seen, heard and known through the mass media. I've had 41 years of media experience now as a journalist. I've been on TV, radio, print, have my own media program. We do several marketing packages, etc. with PR. And so if you want to get out and get in traditional media and get out more on online media, then reach out, send me a PM. We can chat about that. Also, very interesting, we have just launched the Fear to Freedom collaboration book, myself and Leanne Clune. It's we've just had our first author come on board in the last few days, Michelle Slight. Welcome aboard. Fear to Freedom. Our subtitle for our new book that we're putting out is called Conscious Creators Manifesting Magic. Conscious Creators Manifesting Magic. And we have an early bird special that is ending on International Women's Day on March 8 in 4 days' time. And we're offering about 15 grand's worth of value for a crazy launch price. So reach out if you want to be in a collaboration book. You'll have heaps of marketing. We're doing a 3-month training with it as well. We've got heaps. It's going to be awesome. And it is, again, about shifting the energy on the planet, helping to share these stories of how people have moved from fear to having freedom in an area of their life. And these I find are the most inspiring stories. And when Leanne and I were coming together to put this book together, we were saying, what is it that really inspires us? And it's when we hear about these stories of where people have turned tragedy to triumph, right? Where they've turned their fear to freedom. And of course, being a stand for freedom of information, freedom, I think, is a big buzzword at the moment. So where have you turned fear to freedom in your life? And, part of what we talked about today, potentially there's some people neurodiverse out there that have had some fear around that, right? And how can we look at, okay, where can we bring some freedom to that here? And hopefully some of the conversation we've had today has helped do that for you. So send me a PM, go again to linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. Let's connect. And if you haven't liked our Total Truth Show Facebook page yet, it looks something like this. Hop along there. We're also on Spotify. We'd love a review of our Total Truth Show. You can see our 95 previous episodes up online at the moment. And we've done some absolute doozy shows. We've done some amazing shows, and I'd say this would be one of our best here today. I think we're actually getting better with age. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us, Mandy. It's been such a great show. Any final words before we wrap up the live stream today? Mandy, words?
Come to Scotland. Yeah, come to Scotland and do a retreat, because you will absolutely love it here. It's magical.
Oh, fantastic. And is it anywhere near the beach by any chance?
Yep, we are near the beach and near the forest. We go and paint in the forest, and we go and paint.
Oh my gosh, the best of all worlds! And what's the best time of year to go there?
Connect. You two
we need to connect. What's the best time of year? What's the best month of year to go there where you're not going to freeze your backside off?
Usually between May and August. Yeah, don't come in the winter.
Okay, May to August. All right, Mandy, we will chat further, and stay tuned. Stay tuned. I would love to come and do a retreat in Scotland, in your castle. That sounds amazing. Very, very cool. Thank you so much. Look, anything is possible. We have such an extraordinary world that we live in, and what we choose to focus on will grow. Focus on the good stuff. Be grateful for what you've got, and you'll be given more to be grateful for. If you wake up whinging, you'll probably go to bed whinging, and you'll probably have more shit that will happen in your day than you can think of. So, here's to, it's funny I mentioned the word shit here. So this is in your neurodivergent brain. I go back to, changing my pad for my mum this morning. It's like, more shit will come away. Okay. And sometimes we just have to wipe the shit away, and we just have to put it in the bin and move on, right? Because, life goes on regardless, and everybody poos, okay? Everybody poos. Whether, and so here this imposter syndrome, and everyone wheezes, and everyone burps and farts and does all that, right? Everyone has their unique smells about them. Some are smellier than others. Maybe go and have a shower if you're feeling that way right now. But, whatever it is for you, look, you're a beautiful human being, and this is part of the tapestry of life. Enjoy all of it. Be fully self-expressed. Let it all out. And we'll see you back here on Total Truth Show very soon. Ken, final words before we wrap up.
I don't even know how to follow that. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Well, you see, as a health guy, looking at your poos is very important, because it tells you a lot about your health, doesn't it, Ken?
Oh, yes, it does.
Yes. So tune into Ken's mastermind if you want to learn more about that topic, how to examine your poos to make sure that you've got great health. And make sure you drink enough water. There's another big tip for the day. If you're feeling a bit low energy, a bit dehydrated, have some more water, have some more fun. Thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you, Ken. Always a pleasure. We'll be back very soon with more amazing Total Truth Show episodes. In the meantime, have the most extraordinary day. We'll see you soon. Bye.